Hello.
How's it going?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing fine. My name's Waldo,
I'm modular.
and we talk about the news. We're the better debate bros. And if you
Yeah.
don't think so, tell us why.
Well, I think we're like practically the only debate bros nowadays.
I know, right? Because they got such a bad rap. They got such a bad name.
Yeah. Well, everybody else is too busy doing Total Drama Island.
Right.
So,
That's the other thing that you got to do is just drama.
yeah.
Uh, I have one thing to change. If I go here, and then I do window capture, and I choose the Chrome tab. There it is. And it shows up on screen. Brilliant. And I can go over here. There we go. And then there. Okay. I think I understand how this OBS thing works now. I think I'm
Nice.
getting it. Not screwing up quite as much.
Regular practice makes.
Yeah. Practice. Now I got it. I had a pretty good joke, but Kyle's not in chat to play along, so I'll save it for next week.
Okay.
Uh, we have some news. What is the news?
Well,
The,
Trump got indicted.
Trump is going to be arraigned Tuesday.
So he did get the Tuesday
He
right,
got the Tuesday right. Yeah, he just got the week
just the
wrong.
wrong week.
Wrong
Yeah.
week. His his uh his informants are not quite good enough, it seems.
Hmm. I mean, I'd rather have them be a week earlier than a week late.
As long as he knows, right? Right.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
knew it was coming, and that's fine. Arraigned Tuesday to face a New York City indictment. Um, do you think that he'll perp walk in? I don't think he will. I think he'll walk in, and all the cameras will be there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Um, I think he probably is not even going to be there for the majority of the hearings. Um,
That's entirely possible as well.
most likely he just sends his legal representation in to do it for him.
Hmm. I think this
So
Tuesday,
he'll
yeah, this Tuesday, I think he does actually have to show up.
yeah, they have to
Um,
like bring him in and get his mug shot and do some fingerprinting and stuff.
right. He
And
was, he
yeah,
was,
the Secret Service has to be with him the whole time, so
yeah.
they need yeah.
So
It'll
yeah,
be an interesting Tuesday for them, I'm sure.
he was asked to surrender on Friday, but his lawyer said the Secret Service needed more time to make security preparations. Two people familiar with the matter told the Associated Press. Okay, so um, yeah, what they'll do is yeah, all that stuff
I think
happens on
most likely he
Tuesday.
goes in, he does his fingerprints, gets his picture taken, and
Hmm.
then he tells his lawyers, "All right, you got it."
He may have to do like a plea in front of the judge to just say not guilty.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
that might be
that's a
it
possibility
as
too.
well. How
But
do you plead? These are the charges. How do you plead? And then he will say not guilty. And
I mean, I
then
imagine that the actual court appearance won't be for several months.
yeah, I've got that one.
Yeah,
The trial won't happen for maybe a year
yeah.
because of the way the New York courts work. There will be lots and lots of um, motions and what did this thing described it down here? I think the system allows a significant amount of pre-trial motions and appeals. This includes the ability for a defense to argue before a judge that the evidence presented to a grand jury was legally insufficient to warrant an indictment. So his lawyers will say, hey, this evidence that you have isn't even enough to indict me, and then a judge will have to make a decision on that, and that'll take weeks.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, months for sure.
and then they'll do
Well,
another one, and then
once it's
they'll, yeah.
actually before the judge, it'll take a couple weeks. Yeah.
Hmm. And so this is going to go well into the year 2024,
Yep. So we'll be right in the swing of election season
which is why I
when this starts playing out.
absolutely believe he's still going to run.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Um, which is unfortunate. I was really hoping that this would clear the way
Hmm.
for DeSantis, because DeSantis is just a clear front runner
Hmm.
if Trump is gone. And actually, he was the front runner as recently as a week or two ago.
Hmm.
And somehow, the indictment has actually improved Trump's polling.
Right. And I mean, I have an idea on why that is.
Well, I think it's because he played his cards right. He, called it a witch hunt and whatnot. And the establishment's still out to get me, and that plays really well to his base. So
Well, yeah, his base likes it when liberals are mad. And you know what makes liberals mad? Donald Trump.
it is true.
They want uh, liberals to suffer, and this is how they do it: is by supporting him. Voting for him makes liberals unhappy. And the worst part of his base, that's what they want, is just to make liberals unhappy.
Well, I mean, still got to get those votes,
I know.
and I don't think that
And that
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 that part of
energizes,
his
yeah.
base uh, is large enough to, you know, actually win an election.
No, but the people who stopped paying attention to him for the reasons that you outlined over the past couple of weeks, um, that he's telling the same, he's just doing the same stump speeches over and over again, and he's saying the same things even though he hasn't actually done anything. Those
Yep.
people who dropped off the train, they got off the Trump train because it wasn't going anywhere, are going to jump back on because uh, finally he's doing stuff and things are happening, and those goddamn liberals are finally going to get what they deserve. And I mean, it's
Well, I mean, I wouldn't even say that he's doing stuff and things are happening. Things are happening to him.
right, and he's
Like,
gonna right, and he's going to tell them that he's taken on the establishment, and he's beaten down the politicians, and Alvin Bragg's a corrupt politician, and we're going to beat him, and the only way we can beat him is if you vote for me, and I'll replace everybody in New York. Uh, we can't let these New York uh, liberal law attorney generals come after us. They're coming after you next, and that will fire up some of the people that had fallen off of the Trump train. I think this will excite them.
yeah, possibly, which is exactly why you see that bump in the polls for
Hmm.
him.
Hmm.
Um, which, yeah, uh, I guess the best I can hope for right now, I think, is either he ends up slipping again because this was a temporary boost, and then DeSantis still wins the primary, or Trump just wins it, and then we take it to the presidential election, and this is the last time that he runs ever, whether he wins or loses.
I think he is absolutely going to run. Okay, so next question. Great. He's okay. Let me start over. He's being indicted on these things. The trials are going to be in 2024. Um, he's going to continue to run. What happens if and when he loses the Republican primary?
Yeah, he probably goes third party,
That's what I'm thinking too. Uh, I
which would be a disaster for me, but a boon to you.
um, yeah, I mean Joe Biden will win in a walk off.
Yeah, and do you think it'll be Biden
Oh
again?
yes, it will.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not going to be anybody else. They will run Joe Biden again, and
I think
um,
Biden beats Trump, but I don't think that Biden beats DeSantis in a
I
one-on-one.
think you may have a point there. I think Biden beats Trump if that's it. If it's D versus R, Biden versus Trump, I think Biden wins again, just like he did
Hmm.
last time in all the same states. If it's just Biden versus DeSantis, honestly, I don't know if Biden could win that. He's not exciting. He
Yeah, I don't
doesn't
think he can.
drive
DeSantis
people to be there. Yeah.
has a lot of name recognition at this point. And then, oh hey, Kyle's here.
Thank God.
I think that yeah, runs third party from jail. Amazing. I think that the funny thing is that I think that in the general, if it's just DeSantis running, I don't think there's anybody that could beat him. But Trump splitting the vote means that he'll lose.
Trump splitting the vote definitely means Biden wins, but does Biden beat DeSantis? Maybe. Um,
I don't think so. Like I was saying,
I don't.
I totally got
I don't like
sidetracked by
the.
Kyle showing up.
Yeah.
I think DeSantis has the name recognition. He is the people of Florida really like him. Like everybody in Florida loves the guy.
hmm
So right away you take away a swing state.
I mean,
Um,
yeah. Florida went for Trump both times, if I remember correctly.
well, yeah, but he would barely need to even run in his own home state, like campaign there. Whereas you got other candidates that have to spend many days of campaigning, weeks even campaigning just in Florida, and you don't have to do that if
Well,
you're just.
they just wouldn't spend the money there. The DNC would just put $0 there, and they would move on to the other swing states that Hillary ignored.
Yeah, the ones up in the Great Lakes areas and
Right.
whatnot.
The
Yeah,
the three or four that Hillary ignored and then didn't vote for her.
yeah,
They took those three or four up there near the Great Lakes, like you said, and just took them for granted and said, yeah, of course they're going to vote for Hillary. And then they did not. They got no attention. They got uh, no resources. They didn't get people on the ground convincing people to vote for her, and it they didn't do too good. And she lost those handful of states, and we were all shocked and amazed. Um,
yeah.
so yes, if he runs third party, and I think he will. I think he absolutely will if he is not literally prevented by law from doing so. He is going to run again because it will make him money. This guy needs money.
Maybe.
He
I don't know how
his
much money he really needs. I mean, he could probably sell a property or two and be just fine. And the dude's
um
got freaking towers in New York.
yeah, he's
Like,
got towers in New York that are he's indebted. Like he ran a casino into the ground. His dad helped him a lot when he was alive, and I think he owes more than he has. I think he's underwater, and the only thing
possibly.
keeping him afloat was those two presidential elections.
Interesting.
I
I'm
think
not so sure. I mean, he might be in debt, but I don't think his debt outstrips the value of his assets.
okay,
So I think he's
okay,
still got a good debt to assets ratio if he does have debt at all.
okay, okay. Hypothetically, if he needs money, I mean he has to run, right?
No, he just sells the Mar-a-Lago or something.
Then he'd be losing. Any and anything he sells is going to have a Trump smell on it, and it's going to devalue everything he owns. I mean, he can't turn a product right now. Is what I'm saying. He can't make money selling things outside of unless he's selling it specifically to his base.
Well, he's
Um,
he's also I don't think that's true. He's also making money from things like I mean the towers he owns they're hotels
hmm
and apartment buildings, and
hmm
he collects money from people staying there. So it's
Sure.
a stream of revenue.
And
A lot of times, and also it probably doesn't. It's not directly to him. Like he personally is probably not in debt, um, because the business side of things is all under Trump LLC, right? So
right.
not directly to him. Just like the companies that he bought and then bankrupted,
hmm
uh, none of those are him going bankrupt. The company that he bought did, but he personally did not go bankrupt over it.
Right. Um, what I'm trying to get at is that I'm never going to stay at a Trump hotel.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, what if
Because
it's the cheapest one in New York,
if it's the cheapest one in New York, that means he's a loser, doesn't it?
or it's the cheapest high quality one in
It's
New
the
York?
cheapest high quality one in New York. That means he's a loser. That means he has lost. He was up here with these with his name recognition. What I'm saying is his name has been brought down quite a bit over the past few years and is about to get brought down even more.
Yeah, I'd
And
say that he's
his
definitely lost some of the Trump power.
the personal brand, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So that
Hmm.
personal brand has come down. There are fewer people willing to do work with to work with him. There are fewer people willing to be his lawyer. I suspect he did not treat that Cohen guy very well, um,
True.
and now he has to. When you're in that position, he now has to hire somebody who's a lawyer, who isn't the top of the ladder. Anybody who's a really good lawyer is gonna know you shouldn't be Donald Trump's lawyer. That
Well, I'm sure that if he pays them enough, they'll do it anyway. But
and that's going to cost money, which is why he's going to run. He's going to need that money. He's going to need a lot of money, and I
well,
think
as
he's going
as
to
we've
get it.
seen from this most recent indictment, then running and using the money to pay lawyers is not something that you're allowed to do.
Right. Well,
So
it depends on what you're paying them for, but yes. And then that will lead to shady deals. I think he is a sleazy, shady businessman. He always has been since he was a 4 year old on his dad's payroll. He has been a sleazy, crooked businessman.
there's
And
nobody in any amount of power that is not crooked.
I know that. Uh,
So he's just like the rest of
he's worse than the rest of them. I suggest. I am being
That's
very
fine.
specific. I'm telling you my opinions here. I think he's worse than the rest. I think he's more sleazy. He's more dirty than the rest. And in wait, what was my point? In doing so, he is going to need money to pay off the people because he has bad credit and a bad name. It's going to cost him more. And because he has to cost more, he has to do sleazy things to get that money. And in doing so, he then becomes even more uh, uh, what's the word? Skeevy, maybe. Maybe he becomes a little bit more shady,
Possible.
and then the lawyers that are going to go into uh, investigate his finances with this indictment are going to find a dozen more problems. They're gonna.
So you're
I'm.
thinking that this is the start of like a spiral for him.
This is a start of the downward spiral. Absolutely.
Okay.
The people are going to be investigating his business dealings. He is a shady businessman. They will find 10 more problems, and then those 10 problems will have to be reported to the authorities. Then those authorities will begin a trial for that, and then they'll investigate that, and they'll find 20 more problems somewhere else. It's like the cop pulling you over for a busted tail light, and then smells
And he
drugs,
sees,
or
yeah, smells the weed in your
he
car.
smells the weed in your car,
You
and
see
now
it,
he's
yeah.
investigating the weed in your car, and then he sees the pill bottle that you have in the glove compartment that doesn't have a name on it, and now he finds that, and then he runs your name, and he finds out you have a warrant, and it's a downward spiral, and I think that's what's about to happen. It'll take years. Good lord, it'll take years.
Well, I
But
guess we'll find out. I mean,
and then
that's all speculation, of
I
course,
know it
but
is. I know it
but
is.
I don't really care because he's not my main guy anymore.
I know he's
So,
not your main guy. Um, but I think he is going to create a stumbling block for your main guy.
oh, I know. He already has. I mean, he's come out punching against DeSantis already before DeSantis even announced, and he hasn't announced yet. But Trump is calling him like
Right.
Ron DeSanctimonious and all this stuff.
Meatball Ron.
I think he
God,
realizes
that's a
that
good name.
that DeSantis is his primary threat,
Yeah. And that leads
which
to.
sucks because I would really like to see Trump eventually endorse DeSantis, but that's not going to happen this cycle.
Yeah, I
So
agree. I don't know if it'll ever happen. Three ways Trump indictment could help DeSantis, three ways it could hurt him. Ready?
go for it.
Pow, pow, pow. Number one, it highlights the baggage Trump would bring to the presidency.
Yeah,
uh,
nobody cares about that.
how the indictment of President Trump could help Ron. Ron DeSantis will say, hey, don't vote for Trump. He has all this baggage. Look at all these crimes. Vote for me instead. I mean, that's what DeSantis is going to say. Uh, I'm a drama-free leader. Yeah, implied that contrast to Trump could feel more pronounced if the former president has a mugshot taken next week. Look at that mugshot. You don't want to vote for that guy. Vote for me, Ron DeSantis. That's what it, something along those lines. So that's a way he could help him.
I don't think he plays that angle though.
No?
No, he might imply it from time to time, but it won't be his primary goal there because it actually that second one would
Mm-hmm.
directly contradict the first
It
one,
could
and
give
DeSantis
DeSantis
is
another
already
chance
trying to
to
play
connect with the
this
MAGA
angle here.
base.
Yeah,
Um,
he's already been saying he's towed the party line on it and been like, yeah, this is a political witch hunt. I don't like it when prosecutors do things for political reasons. Um, Bragg is a political puppet, and yeah,
mm-hmm.
he's played that whole thing so that he can get some of the MAGA base on his side, or at
Okay.
the very least that he can try to win these people over. So I think the second point is much more
Much better.
useful than the first one.
Okay. Number three, it provides an opportunity to show his powers as governor. For a brief period on Thursday, DeSantis' statement raised the possibility of an unprecedented, drawn-out legal ordeal playing out within the Sunshine State. But in short order, Trump's lawyers and officials in New York made it clear that the former president would turn himself in, making extradition unnecessary. So there was a brief moment where we were like, hey, he lives in Florida. Are we going to have to get him? And if we do, can
And
we?
DeSantis was like, "We won't even cooperate with you if you try to get him."
That's dangerous. That sets a very dangerous precedent.
I didn't even know about that actually, but
Um,
that would have
legal
been
experts have
pretty.
said DeSantis could likely only delay Trump's extradition in this case rather than stop it. Um, that would be a very wild situation where.
I think that would have helped DeSantis a lot, and I wonder if Trump actually agreed to just come in because he didn't want to help DeSantis' chances that much. Because DeSantis doing that would make him 1A to Trump's 1 for the MAGA base. You know,
Wait, you think that the um, the district courts of New York put out uh, an arraignment, a indictment of Trump. Trump lives in Florida. They try to arrest him, and Governor DeSantis would stop them from doing so, and that would
or
help
at the very least
DeSantis.
delay the arrest,
He would
delay the extradition,
delay the
make a big
extradition,
show of it,
and that would help
so
him.
that yeah, absolutely, because
Oh,
that gets the base for Trump seeing
hmm,
DeSantis as an ally.
okay. Against the law. It's Trump and
Well,
DeSantis against
hold
the
on.
rule of law. Let's go, boys.
Trump, well, the way it would be painted is Trump and DeSantis against the establishment. Is what it would be. Is that's what the word there is the establishment,
The
right?
establishment of
So
the law. Okay,
DeSantis could.
and
Well, hold on. They said that legally he could probably delay Trump's extradition. Okay, and New York is not Florida. New York is not the federal court, so he could probably get away with defying New York.
okay.
Uh,
That that sounds
Now,
like
if it was a
our
federal
entire
indictment,
country would fall apart.
if it was a federal indictment and he tried to resist it, now you're
Okay.
looking at a lot less ability to do that. But New York to Florida, I could see it.
Okay.
I
I
still think,
I think you're
yeah,
right
it's
that
most likely just delayed.
yeah
But
that their fans would love it.
yes,
I
exactly.
think it would be
That would be a huge benefit to
anti-law
DeSantis.
and the
Anti-New York law,
opposite
but
of it would be the opposite of law and order. But the Republicans are often the opposite of law and order,
it would. Oh,
in my
it would
opinion.
100% be a political play.
Yeah.
Like eventually, the understanding I think on in the DeSantis camp would end up being that yes, he is still eventually going to get extradited,
Hmm.
but we can play it up like we're fighting against that happening,
Hmm.
and then in the end, it will we get to look way better and we get to be seen as an ally as opposed to opposition, so that if we have to, uh, or if Trump ends up losing in the primary, then I don't look so bad about that.
Okay.
Like the base is more likely to shift over to DeSantis in that case.
Okay. Um, how Trump's indictment could hurt DeSantis. Number one, the indictment redirects all attention to Trump. I think
True.
that's a good point. If you're Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, Chris Christie, when you go to Iowa, you need the press to come. Instead, the press will be in Manhattan.
Yep.
And I'd say that one's pretty much right on the money. DeSantis is going to go
Uh,
to these primary states, and nobody's going to care, or fewer people will pay attention because Trump's on walking.
it's all about the screen time.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like,
he's put handcuffs on himself when he's walking in, and then the press will go on for 7 days about how the handcuffs weren't put there by a cop, and then the Trump put the handcuffs on himself as they walked in, and it's just a
well, yeah, and that's one of those things is you saw in 2016, there was that one chart that because Trump was so incendiary during his campaign that news stations couldn't help but just cover him
mm-hmm,
like 24/7, and he got like something like $1 trillion in free advertising
right,
from all the news companies.
and they were just focused on the empty podium. Like
Yeah, I
I,
mean,
I,
all
I,
kinds of.
I think I watched that one time. I was like watching the news, and then the news people were at the bottom, almost like our setup here
Like a
is
stream,
with
yeah.
like a stream. They're in the bottom where I am right now, and up in the center was just an empty podium that said Trump will speak soon, and then the words at the bottom were like Trump to speak soon, and it went on for like 10, 15 minutes. And I suspect that he watched and saw that and was like, yeah, give it 15 more minutes. Uh, have them focused on my empty podium. That's I don't like Trump, but that he's good at the media. He's good at TV.
Yes, he is. And that is a strong quality to have as a presidential candidate.
Mm-hmm. Number two, it galvanizes Republicans to Trump's side. So
Saw that in the polling data.
yeah, we saw that in the polling data. He will go on to talk about how the law is out to get him, and it's all a political farce and a witch hunt, and the his fans will love it.
Yeah, I agree.
Number three, Trump will likely see a fundraising boost. So uh, not long after the news of indictment, Trump's team sent a fundraising email. We are living through the darkest chapter in American history. With your support, we will write the next great chapter of American history, and 2024 will forever go down as the year we saved our republic. So,
Yeah, I got
um,
those kind of emails. Um, they all read like that though.
4 million in the 24 hours after the news of indictment. So he already made $4 million for the campaign, which I think you're allowed to pay lawyers. The PAC laws are weird and difficult, and if he's lucky, he's got a really smart couple of lawyers that are taking care of it. But yeah, this 4 million is going to help him in his legal troubles.
Yeah, and the fact that that pack rolled out an ad bashing DeSantis, I think, is very telling. What it
Mm-hmm.
tells me is that they're actually that camp, the Trump camp, is actually very worried about DeSantis,
Mm-hmm.
and that they
Yeah.
see him as a very serious threat to uh, Trump in the primary.
Right.
And I wanna actually go back to Kyle's question about the Dems
Do the Dems have
and good
anyone running with
prospects.
good
So,
prospects? Uh, Only Biden. I don't think there will even be a primary on the Dem side.
well, I would I would I would seek to extend that out a little bit to this is going to be Biden's last campaign.
The one in
Uh,
24? Sure, that makes
yeah,
sense.
if he wins, he's got the term limit. If he loses, he probably isn't making it to the next election cycle anyway.
Right.
Um, but I do wonder who the Democrats up and comers are that could start challenging. Like they have anybody that could come up and then challenge DeSantis at some point in the next three cycles, for example. I mean, who are your stars? You got AOC. She will never win a national election.
Oh, I disagree.
Um,
She's not going to win this year, but they are. setting the stage for her to win in 2030 or something along those lines. I don't even think she's old enough at the moment. She has to be what, 10
To
years
be
older?
35.
You have to be 35. I thought it was 45, but
Nope.
35, and she's got what, a few years to
I
go.
think she's 33. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she could run next cycle, but I don't think she's electable.
Uh, I think that as at 35, I don't think she is. I think at 40, she would be. I think they lay it out the right way. Uh, they put her in front of the TV. They put her at the DNCs. Okay, how do how do we know when the DNC has their what's that thing called? That rally where they all show up and announce the thing, um, their political rally or whatever.
The DNC.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
the DNC when they announce that Biden is going to run again, if the speaker right before that will be their top star. Because if you remember,
That won't be AOC.
I don't think it will be AOC this time, but when she does that in the year 2040, 2040, or 20, sorry, 2030, 2032, something along those lines, that means they're moving her up. That's generally where the Dems show off their shining stars, is the people right before they announce who's running, which was Obama in
Right.
2004, I want to say. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
he who was it ran in '04 against Bush? It was John
Was
Kerry.
it Kerry? Yeah.
So we all knew that it was going to be John Kerry, and they have their fancy, super fun, exciting thing where everybody's in the crowd yelling and screaming, and they count all the delegates and fun stuff. And we knew it's John Kerry, but who introduces him? Who speaks for about 20 minutes before John Kerry takes the stage? Obama. And
Gotcha.
so
So who do you think your candidates are for being up there this
in
year
in
or next year?
24, it's going to be Biden.
Yeah. Oh,
I
no, 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 no. The speaker before Biden that
The
you're
speaker before
trying to be rising.
Biden,
Yeah.
um, Kamala. I don't
Really.
think that she's great, but it is also she's the current vice president, which means she has some name recognition, and I think that liberals like her.
I think that she is well enough disliked that she's not a serious contender for front. I don't think Kamala would beat DeSantis.
I don't think she would be DeSantis. No,
I don't think that. I mean, who else is there?
I don't think she's going to
There's
run against
Beto,
DeSantis though.
Beto O'Rourke,
Beto, nah,
um,
Beto.
and I think that he can't even win again a Senate race against Ted Cruz. So I very much
Well,
doubt
he
that.
can't win in Texas. I agree. Um,
Yeah, I very much doubt that he becomes a real contender ever. Um, Gavin Newsom of
Gavin Newsom.
California. I
Yeah.
mean, even Californians don't like Gavin Newsom.
Mm, he does the TV real good. He shows up. He looks good. He says he talks well. I think he would do well on TV. He does well on TV. And I
Maybe. I
think
mean, but he also faced a recall from his own state.
they recall everybody
So,
in California. No, literally,
uh,
the threshold for getting a governor recall is this high. It's an inch high. You need 100,000 signatures or something ridiculously low in a state of what, 5 million people, if I remember
uh,
correctly. The
I'd have to look into that. I didn't know it was so easy to do that.
It is very easy to accomplish. You could just go. You could just get the all the your local Republican National Committee names and write them, and you will get to recall the governor. It is shockingly simple. I could probably organize it myself. Uh, so um,
I think Klobuchar could be a serious candidate.
I don't like her. I don't think. Yeah, Klobuchar is here. Bernie's out. He's too old.
Way
Uh,
too old,
Amy,
and
Amy
also
Klobuchar,
he's
maybe.
been dragged through the mud already. Media, so
The media loves
he's
him,
done.
and the
Um,
liberals all love him, and half of
Klobuchar
the
could actually be a threat, I think.
half of
Um,
the Trump voters like Bernie.
and then who else do you have? You got Pete Buttigieg,
Pete
Buttigieg,
Buttigieg.
the Buttigieg man.
I don't like him. I think he is too. Uh, he's establishment. I know it's kind of a joke that oh Donald Trump talks shit. Oh, they're the establishment. The establishment. Oh, they're the insiders. Pete Buttigieg is the most inside of insiders.
Okay.
Every single thing he does is run through the committee. He runs it through the entire committee. Every action he takes, every word he says, every speech he does goes through the committee first. To be and that and I think that people feel that. They might not be able to articulate why they feel it, but I think that they will feel it. And he'll be
Okay.
plain Jane and nobody will go for it. I think he would have a chance at beating DeSantis, but I wouldn't. But only because we liberals don't like DeSantis.
Okay.
Uh, Kamala Harris, whose
Do they
uneven
dislike
performances.
DeSantis more than they dislike Trump?
Do they dislike DeSantis more than they dislike Trump? No.
Yeah. I think that's where the stumbling block is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Is there are enough people right there in the middle? Ah, George
George
Santos. Yeah.
Santos, good call, Kyle. But
You
he's a
think he'll
Republican.
switch parties and when he's a Democrat, he'll say, "Actually, I was a Democrat all along. My parents were Democrats. I'm a Democrat. Uh,
Right. George Santos says,
actually, my great 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 grandfather was Abraham Lincoln's brother.
um, I've got uh,
I'm
family
directly related
ties. Mm-hmm.
to Kennedy as well.
He's a Kennedy, yeah.
Yeah,
His
I'm a secret Kennedy.
Native American, Jewish Kennedy ancestors
Yes.
um, would give him all the knowledge he needs to run as a Democrat. He will swap parties and then say that the whole thing was a Borat level performance to show you how ridiculous Republicans are and that they will just do anything they can to get votes. And and then he runs as a Dem and he beats DeSantis in 74 states.
According to him.
According to
Yeah.
him, yes, he wins 74 out of the 50 states.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah. So that's definitely a possibility. Got it all going on. Yep. George Santos, like Stacy's mom. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the field. So you think that Kamala is the general candidate in 28?
That's why they picked her to be the VP. They do choose those things. I mean, uh, it is very common for the VPs to run later. I mean,
Oh yeah.
Al Gore, vice president, runs for president eventually. Mike Pence wants to run for president. Um, Biden was a vice president and is now the president. George W. George H.W. Bush was Reagan's vice president, right? So
About that one. Was he?
I thought so. No, maybe he was head of the CIA. Who was Reagan's vice president?
I think HW was like head of the FBI or something. Yeah.
George H.W. Bush, yeah.
Oh no shit. All right.
So yeah, he was Reagan's vice president, and then he ran himself and won next. Um, so it is a very common thing to do. So that's why I suspect that Kamala wants to do that, and they would expect that of her, and they're setting her up to do so.
I
So
just don't think she wins. I don't think that Kamala could beat Trump.
against Trump, probably not.
I also don't think she could beat DeSantis.
I don't think she beats DeSantis either. Um, who would beat DeSantis straight up? Biden, I think, might. If there's no Trump third party run, it's just
Exactly.
uh, DeSantis by himself. I think Joe gives him a run for his money, and it's a toss-up. I think Kamala's just slightly behind. I think Buttigieg actually gives him a run for his money because
That's what I said in chat the other day. Is
okay.
I think that Pete it might be the closest one.
Because he is so non not non-threatening, but non-controversial. You know, he
Yeah.
looks the part. He talks the part. He runs everything through the committee. There won't be any giant scandals. There won't be any assumed racism. Uh, that won't be a major talking point. They won't bash you over the head with the liberal thing. Oh, he's the she's the first black woman to do that, and normies hate that shit. Liberals eat it up. The first black woman to do a thing. Yeah, that's great, but normies don't
Yeah,
like
the,
it.
the response you usually get from people that aren't focused on those kind of things is like, okay, who the fuck cares? What's
Okay,
she gonna
yeah,
do?
liberals love that shit. Normies don't like it, and Republicans very much dislike it. I'm gonna say. Um, uh,
Yeah, it's a
then
fair assessment, I think.
then Pete has the gay angle, which will, I think, be the thing that makes him lose. And not because he's done anything wrong, but because I think a lot of very center right people will be motivated to vote against a gay person.
Maybe? I don't think so. I think that
I think
if
that will be not the top layer of discussion. It'll be the undercurrent. It'll be that thing that's going around on the Facebooks and the 4chans and the um,
it could be an undercurrent kind of thing, but
undercurrent of Twitter.
I think that the Democrats would be very wise to focus on policy and whatnot with him, and have him focus on that, not focus so much on minority statuses.
Oh, I think that's a great idea, but Democrats won't do that because they're dumb. Uh,
If you make one of his primary talking points that he's gay, then you're not going to win.
that
I'm
is
sorry.
what they will do. And
What a
that is what
terrible strategy.
I know. The Democrats don't like strategy. They don't have strategy. They don't want to win. I sometimes worry very much the Democrats want to be in second place. Uh, there was an episode of South Park where the boys were playing baseball, but they hated it. And they did not want to play baseball. And their parents continued to make them play baseball. And they played against another team that also did not want to be spending their time playing baseball. And they were both trying to lose. I get that way. I get that feeling from the Democrats sometimes that they want to be in second place because second place
maybe
is
maybe
easy.
they're just so bad at coming up with strategy that it seems that way.
Mm,
Like
either,
in that like in that South Park episode from 2015 where the one guy's dad ends up running for president, and he's supposed to be Trump, and he runs against Hillary Clinton,
yeah,
and at the end he's like uh he says, "Look, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. You should vote for her. She knows what she's doing. She's been doing this for a long time. Don't listen to me. Like, vote for her." And then her
they all,
team had
yeah,
told her that to anytime he says anything, to say,
just
"My
disagree with
opponent
it.
is a liar and cannot be trusted. Do not listen to him."
Right.
And so
Well,
she
no,
does.
lady, I'm trying to give this to you. I know. Uh, and I think, yeah, maybe that's what it is that they either they're so bad at planning that we can plan better, or um, they want to be in second place because second place is comfy. You get to sit back and not get blamed for anything. I think that about Congress mostly, not the president so much, but the Congress, the legislature. Yeah, I think they want to be in second place. They always want to be second, uh, so that they can complain and say, "Hey, you guys, how dare you?" I mean, how
Yeah,
many
maybe.
how many people got fired from the DNC when Donald Trump won?
I mean,
None.
it is a
None.
very easy
Nobody got
paycheck
fired.
to collect, I suppose.
Right.
But at the same time, I feel like you don't do this kind of thing. You don't get into politics without actually caring about something. You have some issue that you care about that you want to make a difference in, or I
And
can't
I'm
imagine being in government and then just deciding like, fuck it, I'd rather not have any power and just
well,
collect the check.
you don't do
You
that
know,
on your first year. You do that on your 12th, your 25th year. in there, you know?
Well, why would you even bother continuing to be in government then,
Because you need
right?
that
Because,
money.
well, you get the
You,
money.
you need that
Once you serve one
stock.
term, you get a paycheck for life.
I know. That sounds shockingly appealing. To me, anyway.
Yeah, so once
Just,
you have your one term, if you're really just in it for the money, once you've had it for one term, why wouldn't you just be like, all right, I'm done.
well, you're
I'm
not
gonna go lay on my
thinking,
couch,
yeah,
collect
well,
my 150K a year for free.
right, but it could be 250K if you make enough friends and if you get enough uh, influence to then become a fancy pants lobbyist. Now it's $1 million a year. Wouldn't you rather have $1 million a year than 150,000 a year?
Well,
Me,
when it comes
me
for
too.
life, I mean, it doesn't really matter to me.
I
On
know.
actually, they've done studies, and I say they, but there have been studies that have been done that show that the vast majority of the increase in happiness from financial security comes from the first $250,000.
Right.
And after that, you could
More
make
money
five hundred
doesn't.
thousand
Yeah,
dollars, and it doesn't make you any happier.
I know. It's sounding very
So,
socialist. I appreciate it.
well, I mean, that's what the study
I know. I
says.
know.
Like, I
I'm
know that
I'm
your
busting your
lifestyle
balls.
changes when you make $1 billion compared to 150,000, but
Right.
in terms of like your financial security and having all your needs met, they're met. Like, $150,000 is more than I make. You
Mhm.
can, and you're getting that for free
Mhm.
every year just for serving a 2-year term in the House of Representatives.
Right.
And I mean, that's more than enough to pay off a mortgage and also eat out every single day at fancy restaurants. Uh, I mean, I've always thought that if I ended up winning like $2 million, for example,
Mhm.
the first thing I would do is quit my job and uh, not work for a while because I would just put it in a 5% dividend fund
Mhm.
and collect the 5% dividend on $2 million per year, which comes out to 100K a year,
Right.
and live on that. Be
Yeah.
great.
And that you just live on the dividends. That's a
Yeah.
choice that some people will make, but if you have the drive, if you have a bit of politician in you already, there wouldn't be enough. You would need more. You need to go farther. We need to get
Well,
more.
I mean,
I
yeah, I
know.
would probably retire and then from my current job, and then I would run for office. But the point would be that I would have financial security. So,
Yeah.
if I want to make changes, I can. If I lose
Mhm.
elections, also fine. I have financial security. Like,
Mhm.
but I could only see myself doing it because I actually care.
Mhm.
You know, as opposed to what's the point of having power if you're not going to wield it?
I don't know. Just to have it, I suppose. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't comprehend it. But again, I am a middle class nobody.
Me
This
too.
is why I'm a middle class nobody. Is this why I'm a middle class nobody, or is my brain making me a middle class nobody? I don't know.
A good question. Maybe it's a chicken and egg situation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which one is which? Um, let's see. Speaking of middle class nobodies and money, uh, we're sponsored today. This stream today is sponsored by HelloFresh, and you should use the code Dingus when you go to the HelloFresh website. Just type the word Dingus into their website over and over and over again, and if
Eventually, it'll work.
and it'll work. If it doesn't work, just type it in all caps, and then if it doesn't work there, you should call them and tell them Dingus, 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 over and over again until it works.
Wonder if there's somebody that would have to read that log of the codes that got entered,
I hope so.
and they
Uh,
just get like 5,000 entries of dingus. Like, does it go into an Excel spreadsheet,
I don't
and
know.
some guy might go look at that and be like, "What the fuck?"
I hope so. Why are these people? Why is someone doing this? What would you do? What is this? I don't know what's going on. Okay, so next up, we will
Yes, and give me 1 minute. I have to
continue the
use the
train.
bathroom.
Sure. What should we talk about, Kyle? See, dingus. Kyle gets it. Dingus, 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 dingus. It's totally working. Totally working right now. Let's see. See, Kyle, this is how you get your HelloFresh offer code. That's how you get your discount. Yeah. This isn't a very good story. We'll close that. And we'll start pounding on Mr. DeSantis.
I am back.
Okay. So, two other things I think to talk about today: DeSantis and a shooting in Tennessee. Which one do you want to talk about?
Ooh, either one's fine.
Okay. Florida insiders react with shock, amusement, and dread after Disney outmaneuvers DeSantis to keep most of its power. So, Disney and
This one
DeSantis
was
have
very
entered
interesting.
to another round of feuding. Disney outmaneuvered the governor, but he has warned that there is more to come. The turn of events amused insiders, but crossing DeSantis is considered fraught.
See, I'm not sure if I would call this an outmaneuvering
Didn't they hide
by
something in
Disney.
inside the?
Well, no, what they did, so um essentially what happened, I had to look into this a little bit. What happened was the previous board of directors for the Reedy Creek Improvement District,
Mm-hmm.
which is the district that Disney, you know, essentially owns.
Mm-hmm.
Um used to be a bunch of people appointed by Disney,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So the board of directors of the district, just like every district, has a declaration of covenants.
Okay.
And what happened was they wrote like a 152-page declaration of covenants that basically says Disney has the power over this district forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
We agree to it as the board, but the board is Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And then they introduced the bill on the very last day. They introduced this bill, talked about it for like 10 minutes, and then approved it unanimously
In the Florida government?
in the board of directors
At Disney.
meeting.
Okay.
So the Reedy Creek Improvement District Board of Directors held one of their meetings,
Mm-hmm.
talked about it, introduced it, talked about it for 10 minutes. It's 152 pages,
Mm-hmm.
and then they passed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then inside of that basically says Disney does whatever it wants,
Mm-hmm.
basically. The whole thing with DeSantis is that DeSantis is, or the legislation that gave the governor power came into effect, and that the power actually is that DeSantis gets to appoint the people that are on that board of
Mm-hmm.
that Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Mm-hmm.
So the people that were appointed by Disney previously passed a law saying, or passed a declaration of covenant saying Disney has ultimate control. And then that was on their very last day
Mm-hmm.
before the new people came in. Which, you know what that sounds like to me?
Sneaky lawyers.
With Disney, Disney essentially went to Disney and said, "Do we have control of our own district?" And Disney said yes. And what that sounds
sneaky
like,
lawyers.
yes, and what that sounds like to me is the president pardoning himself on the last day in office.
Mm, entirely. I think
I
that is a
would make
fine analogy to make.
Yes, I think that is a perfect analogy. Now, would that be legal?
For the For the president,
Because
no.
I think
For
it
Disney,
seems
maybe.
essentially to be
Disney's
the
not the
same
president.
thing to me.
Well, Disney's
So,
not the president. Uh, if Disney has
but you
an
understand what I mean by
army
that,
of
right? Like,
lawyers, I see the analogy you're making, and I accept the analogy. But the flaw is that Disney is not the constitutionally appointed and elected leader of the country. Disney's a company who makes decisions
uh-huh.
based on what is best for that company. Um, and they have decided that the governor of Florida having more control over what they do with their land is not best for their company, so they made decisions against it. And they've put policy in place so that they will have the authority over that land instead of people appointed by the governor of Florida.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to go so well for them.
Oh, I think it's going to go great for them. They've gotten what they wanted, and the only thing that DeSantis can do now is to use government power against a company.
Well, the company has essentially established itself as a state within the state of Florida,
Right. We shouldn't
which
let
they're not
companies
going
get
to.
that strong and big.
Well, exactly. So
Great. Well,
this is. I
are
don't think this is going to go
are
well
are
for them.
conservatives unhappy when uh, the government tells people what to do? Yes. And if Disney's not stupid, they will paint DeSantis as an authoritarian government telling them what to do with their company. Conservatives don't like that shit. If I know what conservatives, they hate it when the government tells companies what to do. And that's what DeSantis
Mm,
is doing here.
that's a bit of an overgeneralization, especially
It's
when
it is
the
a
company
generalization.
is trying to turn itself into its own autonomous state
I
within
know.
your country. Nobody likes that,
I
not even
agree.
conservative.
Uh, so the government needs to do proper management of a company when it gets too big. Um, that is, what was it? In 2008, they were calling Obama a socialist because he would take public. I'm sorry. They were calling Obama a socialist because he was going to take private companies and make them part of the state. They it was not true. It was nonsense. But that is what Sean Hannity told me on the AM radio, is that Barack Hussein Obama is going to take private companies and turn them into public utilities, and he's a socialist. If Disney plays their cards right, they will paint Ron DeSantis as a socialist.
I don't think that'll work.
I mean,
I
if they
think
do
that it
that.
ends in two ways. Number one, the legal teams that they've brought in to sort the whole thing out
Hmm.
end up finding some way to essentially dissolve this declaration of covenants and then
Hmm.
give the board of directors of Reedy Creek back, the power that they're supposed to have.
Hmm. I
The other
Okay.
possibility, I think, is that this then, because it goes against sort of the spirit of what the legislature tried to do, the
Hmm.
legislature will turn around and say, all right, then we are dissolving the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Hmm.
We're changing this and we're creating multiple different districts, or we're renaming this district. It's no longer Reedy Creek,
Hmm.
and you don't have a declaration of covenants with the board of directors of this district, the new one. So your old one is null and void.
That would
That's the
take
only two ways I see this going.
no. Uh, this is a lawyer battle now. This is a battle of lawyers, and I'm going to suggest that
Well,
Disney
you do
has
realize
more
that
better
originally
lawyers than the state of Florida.
the original idea was to dissolve the district entirely.
I know.
Like that's still on the table.
I don't think it was. Oh well, I don't think they.
The
If
reason,
Ron
and
DeSantis
in
could have done
fact,
it, he would
no, no,
have.
no, they were going to do that.
Uh-huh.
They were going to dissolve the district, and the problem is that the argument was that it would end up increasing taxes pretty substantially for people who are residents of that district.
Right.
So
And
now you have a company that is trying to make itself an autonomous zone, uh, which you can't allow. So now, if it comes down to it, you might just dissolve the district.
I think you are
They could still do that.
misconstruing that part. Disney hasn't this situation didn't exist because Disney was outreaching and grasping and gobbling up land and power. This happened because DeSantis runs a culture war. He wants a culture war. And
Takes two to tango.
his culture war, right? It does take two. His culture war irritated the workers at Disney. The workers at Disney complained to their management. The management fired whoever was in charge of a certain thing and brought in a new guy to make their workers happy. And DeSantis in the state of Florida is now persecuting the company for culture war reasons. If
So you
the
disagree with the reasons behind it,
right,
but you
if
also don't think that company should have its own autonomous zone,
right,
right?
Ron DeSantis is he's bass backwards all the way around on the situation. He's persecuting a company for culture war, and they have actual issues that you could deal with, but he's doing it wrong. If you dislike Hitler because of his mustache, you're fucking wrong. If you dislike him because of the actions he took and the people he harmed, you're right. If you just dislike him because of his silly mustache, you're a crazy person. He's going about this all
I
wrong.
mean, both people dislike
Both
both
people
people
dislike
dislike
him, which is fine, but you're disliking him for the wrong reasons. You're disliking him the wrong way. DeSantis is going after the company, this gigantic mega company that ought to be reined in a little bit for culture war reasons, and that's insane. If you
I think
want to
that
go after Disney, then go after them for bad business practices, overworking the workers. If a company is harming their workers by stealing wages or not giving them overtime or putting them at 39 hours and then dicking them up so that they can't get full-time benefits and stuff like that, the government should intervene. But if the
well,
company is
I'll ask you
saying
this: if Disney has the right
it's okay to be
to set
gay,
its own laws inside of its school improvement district, then Disney gets to do whatever it wants.
if you have a government and you do not want Disney governing the inside of their parks, then come to them as a government about government, not the Don't Say Gay bill. If your problem with Disney is the fact that they are setting their own boundaries, their own law enforcement, their own nation state up inside Florida, then come at them for that. Don't come at them for the Parental Rights and Education Act. Don't come at them because their leader mean tweeted about you. You're doing it wrong. If the head of Disney says we support LGBTQ rights, and then you try and take their sovereignty away, you're fucking up. You're doing it
I think
wrong.
that this is your problem is that we've arrived at the correct answer with the wrong work for Matt,
Right,
essentially,
and now
right?
it's being undone by Disney's army of lawyers. Disney's army
Well,
of
they're trying.
lawyers, well, they've
I don't
already
think
undone
it'll
it
go
so
so
far.
well for them.
I think that the army of lawyers that Disney has is better, more experienced, and more well funded than the army of lawyers that DeSantis is going to put together.
We will
And
certainly find out.
everything,
I
everything
do
that
think that the thing that they did in
mhm.
this case was a desperation move.
No,
Uh,
I don't think so. It was sneaky because they're better lawyers. Where did it say? This must
it
have
was
really been
sneaky.
ticklish for those attorneys to wonder when it was going to be discovered. The Disney attorneys laid down a landmine and walked away patiently, calmly, waiting for the governor of Florida to step on it, and they did. There will be more of these. This is a lawyer war. Disney will win because they have better lawyers than what Ron DeSantis will put together. And the reason, the backing, the absolute base reason Ron DeSantis is doing this is for his culture war.
Well, what I was trying to say is I don't think that Disney wins this in the end. The reason I say that is
Hmm.
because even if they win the Declaration of Covenants
Hmm.
legal battle, then all the all that DeSantis and the Republican legislature will do is take their board and go home, or take their ball and go home by dissolving the district entirely.
And then
They
they
will do it.
will. And you think that will win for DeSantis? That's not a win. If that was a win for him, he would have done it 6 weeks ago. It's not a win for him.
Well, there's levels of winning, right? There's getting exactly your way, exactly how you want to get it,
Hmm.
and then there's
Nuking everything around and
yeah,
salting the earth and burning all the plants and salting the earth and making sure that nobody ever comes
that's
back.
it. I would call it less of a victory, but it still accomplished what he set out to do.
Harm a
So,
company that disagreed with him
yeah,
in his culture war. That's what he's doing. That was his impetus. That was his purpose. That was entirely what he wanted.
I'd say that the goal would be to unravel special that
Absolutely
Disney
not.
has.
Then he would have done it a decade ago, and he would have complained about it years ago, and he would have been on board for getting rid of it 10 years ago. But he wasn't.
Well, I
He
will say
didn't.
that
Disney talked shit about him, and he used the power of the state to harm them. That's
I'll say
why I
that
don't like him.
institutions that have special privileges probably should tread lightly to not lose those. They're
I
not even
recognize
supposed to
that.
have those privileges, which I don't think Disney ever should have. Then maybe they should keep their nose out of the state's business.
The state stuck their nose into Disney's businesses. He could have the he started a culture war, and the culture is fighting back. Like this isn't Disney didn't start this fight. DeSantis started this fight.
The fight wasn't started with Disney. If you're saying that "Don't Say Gay" bill is the start of the fight,
That's the start of a
Disney
culture
chose
war.
to enter.
That is because they're part of culture. I mean, what the hell are they if they're not culture? I you don't have to like current
Company,
culture, but literally,
company
Disney
that enjoys
is
very special privileges.
culture. I'm going to look up the word culture right now.
Disney is a company.
It's culture. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. That absolutely describes Disney. They
Disney
do
stories
arts.
and whatnot.
They
Their
are the
product is part of our
manifestations
culture.
of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. We all know who that
It's
is
part of
right
our culture.
there. We know who
Yes.
Mickey Mouse is. We know what this is. It is a severe part of our culture. Ron DeSantis began a culture
The
war.
representations there are, yes, but the company itself that manifests those representations not. It's a
They're a company. I recognize that. They are a company. And
yes, and that
what
company
is their
company
what is it that
enjoys
they deliver? What does that company deliver? Goods and services. Like they're delivering something to
like all companies,
customers. They're delivering stuff to customers. What are they delivering?
media,
Culture.
theme parks.
Culture. Disney is culture. You don't have to like it. You can say that we should have a different culture, or you can not appreciate Marvel if you want to. You can complain about the Marvel movies, but that is literally
I
culture.
don't think that this works the way that you think it does. I think that. Do you think that religion is part of culture?
Yes,
Okay. So are churches allowed to have political speech?
they already do, but if they uh,
Oh, we had that
that's a
conversation before.
completely different subject. But one, they do. Two, they're not supposed to because they're tax exempt. Um, but
Okay,
the
so the churches enjoy special privileges,
mhm,
and in return, they're not supposed to talk about political things, right?
sure,
But churches are definitely part of our culture.
yes,
So if a church started making overtly political speech, we
It
would
didn't
expect them
start.
to
It didn't
lose
start
their
with the
special privileges.
church. It didn't start with the church. If the governor of Florida passes a bill that churches think and feel harms them, and then or it hurts the people that go to that church, and then they start speaking up. That's a more apt analogy. Disney didn't start this. DeSantis started it. If the governor starts and then churches are affected, the churches will then fire back because they're part of culture.
Churches will then. I don't think so. They not in the way that Disney seems to have claimed they wanted to. I mean, they said they were going to fight against the "Don't Say Gay" bill, which I imagine includes lobbying, which
Yes.
churches are not allowed to do.
No, but they show up with signs and they tell you who they're going to vote for, and they show up to
No, the church doesn't do that.
churches.
The
Churches do
people
that all the
that are
time.
part of the congregation will do that.
The people in the congregation, yeah, the people will say, "I go to this church. Your bill that you are proposing will harm me and change the way I go to church. I don't like it." If Ron DeSantis puts out a culture war against churches, the churches will then fire back in exactly the same way that
Which of
Disney
the
has.
employees of Disney are in the eighth grade? Or
They are a part of the state. They have children. They have children who are going to be affected by this. The education of the entire state's children affects everyone in the state.
well, yes, exactly, Kyle. I'm saying that if they do choose to become political, they lose the special privilege that they're afforded by the government,
De-
which is exactly what's happening with.
Depending on what it is and if it has anything to do with anything. If Ron DeSantis passed a bill about land management and Disney was upset about it, and then they started fighting with him, and then he started taking land management rights away, I'm kind of on board. I'm okay with this. If Ron DeSantis passes a bill about paying your workers and Disney doesn't want to follow that rule and they because it affects their bottom line and they have to pay their workers either more or less or whatever, it changes the way they pay their workers and Disney's upset about that and they go to Ron DeSantis and they start shitting on him in public on Twitter in the news, then he has the right to say these are the plans, this is what we're going to do, it's important, we're going to pass it. But this isn't about that. He has passed a culture war bill about gay and trans people. Disney said, hey, we support gay and trans people. Ron DeSantis takes away their land management. What the actual shit? What the fuck?
Ron DeSantis takes away their special privileges.
Which is land management. If that special privilege was about gay and trans people, I might be like, okay, that makes sense. But it's not. It has nothing to do. Their special privilege has nothing to do with the Don't Say Gay bill. It has nothing to do with it. He is
Right.
being
Neither does Disney.
vengeful.
Disney does
Disney
not have anything to
has
do with the Don't Say Gay bill.
workers.
They have workers, and those workers are free to protest or engage politically in whatever the way they choose.
And
Disney
they
itself is a company that decided to take matters into its own hands.
to benefit its
Those,
workers.
yes, those workers are individuals who are very much free to go and engage in political activities without Disney itself engaging in those political activities.
But
If they were
Disney
so mad
can.
about it,
But Disney can
yes, they can. And
take a stance
also, they
on
can
it.
face consequences for engaging in political
And the
activity
consequence
when they
to
already have special privileges.
and the consequence to speaking out against the government is that the government takes away your land management rights.
Your special
That's
privileges, the ones that
insane.
nobody else has,
This is authoritarian.
the ones that you
They
never should have had
used
in the first
they
place.
used their First Amendment and DeSantis slapped them down with the power of the government on a completely separate subject. If this entire thing was about worker pay, and then I would be on board for it. But it's not about that. It's about
Oh,
Governor
maybe we're
DeSantis
we're
running a.
disagreeing on the nature of the punishment here. I think. See, I see a company with special privileges,
Mhm. And that
and
means they have to shut the fuck up and stay the fuck out of politics.
oh yeah,
Is that what it
100%.
means? That's
Uh-huh.
insane.
Well, so do you think that if Universal had spoken up like Disney did, then what do you think DeSantis would do to Universal?
He
Do you
would
think
take
he'd
away
be able
their
to do
he
anything?
would take away whatever he can. He would harm them in any way he wants, in any way he can, legally. You know what? There's a bar that held a drag show in 2022, and DeSantis took away their liquor license because he wants to hurt them. This 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 private corporate company, I think it's a bar or something like that, but it's a privately owned organization. What do you call it? Privately owned club, something along those lines. Held a drag show. He hates drag shows. He took away their government sponsored liquor license because he wants to use the government to harm people who disagree with him. This is why I don't like him. This is why I keep talking about him, because he will use the power of the government to harm his opponents, and not in the right way. If 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 they had an issue, if he had years of complaining about the way that they are managing their land, there's a there's a place for the governor of Florida to manage the land of Florida. I dig it. This is great. Fine. The governor of Florida has a say in the land of Florida. And if he was complaining about their land use and saying, here's the bill we're going to pass because this company has gotten too big in their land use and they are not following the laws and they are harming the state of Florida and harming the people of Florida, I'm on board. But that's not what's going on. He passed the Don't Say Gay bill. Disney says, hey, we don't like that. It's harming our workers. He takes away their land use. It tries to anyway. The one
He
has
doesn't.
nothing to do with the
I
other.
mean, they're still free to use the land, but they now have to use it the same way that Universal uses their land.
Right. So it has fuck all to do with the Don't Say Gay bill. He's just trying to hurt them. The law, when Republicans are involved, the law protects the inside group and harms the outside group. That's it. And Disney just became the outside group. So the law will be used to harm them. If Universal went along with him and said, hey, we love your plan, we're totally on board, and it's great, we want it to get passed, he would give them special privileges because the law is used to protect the people on the inside and harm the people on the outside.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Trans people
Um,
are now on the outside, and their businesses will be harmed by the state.
I don't think that's true. Now, one thing I will say is I just looked up the hotel thing you were talking about, the liquor license.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are a couple of entities at play here. You've got the Florida government, you have the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the third party company that runs the drag shows that rented the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
The state told the hotel, do not allow children into this event. The hotel turned around and told the third party, we recommend that you don't allow children to the event. It was the hotel's responsibility to not allow children to the event.
Mm-hmm.
The hotel failed to uphold its responsibility. That's why it got its liquor license.
Then hold them responsible for that. But don't find the thing that they where don't find the place where they touch the government and use the government to harm them.
What? I don't understand that sentence.
If the thing they did was illegal,
Uh,
then bring them up on charges for that. But don't
well, a
find the
complaint was filed.
place.
The
Well, a complaint was
complaint
filed.
says
Great.
the state warned it's right there on your page. The state warned the hotel ahead of the performance to stop children from
Mm-hmm.
attending. The hotel only made it a recommendation, allowed minors who went with adults. It also alleged that performers stimulated sex acts and exposed prosthetic female breasts.
Mm-hmm. Then charge them for
The
that.
state told them don't do this.
Right. Then charge them for that. Tell them that you were endangering children. Cite them for that. You don't take away their business license or their liquor license. Why did they choose the liquor license? Because that's where this company touches the government. That is the only place that uh, Republicans in Florida could use the government to harm them.
Possibly, but there also might be stipulations in, I don't know all the laws about liquor license in Florida. Are you, I mean,
If they had any other kind of license, the Florida government would try to take it away. The government is trying to harm people that it doesn't like.
so I'll pose the question again then.
Hmm.
If Disney did not have a special zone,
Hmm.
privilege that is only afforded to Disney
Hmm.
around the entire country, the only company that has its own autonomous zone.
Hmm.
If Disney didn't have that,
Hmm.
how do you think the government would harm Disney?
Through their liquor license, through uh,
Do
any
you think that
other
they'd
sort
even be able to do
of.
that?
Well, they would try. Yeah, they would try to harm them through some other means, either through licensing or land management or some sort of tax incentives that might be in the area around, or people coming and going, because I know there's probably performers and stuff like that that have to go through there. The government probably touches them there. Anywhere that the government touches them is where they will attack. The government of Florida, the Republicans of Florida, will attack Disney anywhere Disney touches the government.
I just think that the special zone is about the only place that they'd really be able to do anything with because
That's the
special zone
biggest,
is
easiest target.
exactly it's one that should never have existed in the first place. So again,
I never heard about it
maybe
until
you
now.
think it's the wrong the wrong work being shown, but the end result, the end answer is still correct.
Oh God, no! It's not even the correct end point,
You
because
think that Disney should have its autonomous zone?
no? But
Well,
what's
there
going
you
to
go.
happen? No, this isn't over. It isn't ended here. This isn't gone. They now have more power than they had before, and the government is about to come and take some of that power, or try to, and they're going to
I
do
don't think they have
such a
more
shit
power.
job.
I mean,
The Disney,
they've got the facsimile of it for now, but I think that what they did was desperation.
they
I
outmaneuvered the
don't
governor.
think that that article says they outmaneuvered him, but I don't think so. Again, I very much doubt that they'll be able to get away with the Declaration of Covenants in the first place. And then on top of that, even if they do win that legal battle, the next step is the legislature will just dissolve the zone like they originally planned to.
And that will hurt the governor. If it didn't hurt the governor, he would have done it sooner. If that could have caused harm to Disney and been a boon to him, he would have done it. But it wasn't. It could
They
have.
were going
It's
to
going to
do
harm
it.
them, and it's going to harm him too. He's about to
The
cut off his nose to spite his face.
having the governor be allowed to appoint the board of directors for the district was specifically something that was the alternative. They were going to dissolve the district. They said, "Hey, actually, this is going to increase taxes for a lot of people in
Hmm.
that district.
Hmm.
So let's look for an alternative." So they found that alternative. The alternative was governor appoints the board of directors
Hmm.
rather than Disney doing that. And then Disney turned around and said, "Well, fuck you. We're not going to let you do that." So I think the end result, if Disney manages to win the legal battle,
Hmm.
is then they just go back to Plan A.
Hmm. I mean,
I mean,
this is a bad guy fight. I'm not suggesting that I want to be on Disney's side, but I see Ron DeSantis as a bad guy attacking Disney, who is also a bad guy and is attacking Ron DeSantis.
I think that Disney didn't outmaneuver the governor. I think Disney outmaneuvered the other residents of the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Okay, but
I think that
if those people on
Disney
that
doing
thing
this,
were appointed by the governor,
Disney doing this could ultimately fuck those people over. Is what I'm saying.
okay,
And Disney could have, you know, not engaged in this whole farce, and those people would still be just fine. But Disney did this. It's now whatever happens, I think it's Disney's fucking fault.
they didn't start this fight, and I still maintain the idea that the Don't Say Gale bill has nothing to do with this Reedy Creek zone. Nothing. Zero. It's spite from Ron DeSantis. Just spite. Pure.
They're all there. I mean, there had to be some catalyst that caused them to lose their autonomy. And if this is what it was, then you disagree with it. I don't care.
Well, I don't think it's
They're
going to.
losing their autonomous zone. The final result is the correct.
The final result will be that they win in law, in a court of law. They're
Or
going to
lose.
win. Now, here's what I'm going to suggest is the future. Again, I'm telling the future. I think Disney wins in court because they have an army of lawyers, and then it becomes even more difficult to unseat them for the right reasons because now they have precedent. If you take a shot at the king and miss, you die. I think Ron DeSantis has taken a shot at the king and he has missed. And now he will pay the consequences. And now the next person to take a shot at the king will also fail.
When do you think this legal battle will be resolved? Do you think it'll be before or after the election?
I don't know. It's real estate land management, so it is very long, drawn out, and slow. Um,
I suppose it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what. I'll make you a bet.
okay.
I bet you that Disney loses this one, and I will bet you a $100 donation to the campaign of the other person's choosing.
I don't have $100 to spend, but
God
maybe I
damn it!
will someday. I, so I'm talking to you on this thing, and I don't have one of those cool microphones. If I had $100, I'd have bought a nice, cool microphone. It would be hanging right here, right now, and I would be talking to you through a streamer mic. Maybe someday soon, we'll make bets on this kind of thing. But right now, I would take the bet that Disney is going to come out ahead in this situation. It might be years off, honestly. I think
Well, then it'd be the 2028 election that we
yeah,
settle the bet on.
yeah,
You
that's
know,
fine. But I think they are going to win this. He has is either going to back down or capitulate in a way that sounds like he won. He's going to do a very Trumpy thing where when Trump loses, he says, "Well, it's okay. I did what I wanted, and we got what we wanted, and everything's great, and I won." Actually, I think he's going to do a very Republican thing where Disney gives up an inch and they claim it a victory. Uh, but really, nothing will have changed. But
I have to see
it's
how that looks in
mhm,
the well, not looks, but how that plays out. Like what constitutes giving up an in. I'm not really sure.
mhm.
I could see maybe concessions from both sides, depending
And
on the quality of those concessions. You might
mhm,
you might say that Disney comes out ahead.
I think that's what honestly. I don't think our bet would ever be settled because both sides will give a little bit, and then Ron DeSantis will say that he won, and Disney will say, "No, we won," and then I'll just say that Disney won, and you'll say DeSantis won, and we can never decide it. But
I just think that the Declaration of Covenants that they signed
mhm,
with themselves the day before they got replaced,
mhm,
I think is maybe it might be one of those things that is now we're talking about an all or nothing
mhm.
sort of battle. Like now it's like it's scorched earth or nothing.
Besides having an in-house government relations team, Disney also contracts with several lobbying firms, including the Southern Group, Gray Robinson, Vogel Group. Such firms have contracts with numerous other clients and have businesses before the governor, according to the state's lobbying disclosure database. Disney is so much more powerful than the governor of Florida. I think they will
Well,
bring
I
to
think the
bear.
words "business before the governor" mean that they have a lot of people that the governor sees all the time
Right,
that are going to talk to him about this.
right.
And
And
if I mean, lobbying can only go so far. You can ask people for things, yes. The real lobbying is when you spend money on campaigns.
mhm,
Like you spend it. Uh, you tell your lobbyists. The lobbyists go and say, if you don't do what I want you to do, I
mhm,
am going to give $1 billion to your next campaign opponent,
mhm,
and I'll fund their super PAC or whatever.
mhm.
Uh, I'm not entirely sure that. I mean, I already know that Disney wouldn't fund DeSantis himself anyway. They're going to fund
Oh,
his opponent.
I think they would have if he hadn't done this. I think they would have if they could benefit and profit from the fame and attention he brings to Florida. If he could bring, if Ron DeSantis running for president could bring people to Florida, Disney would have backed him.
Mm, I think that Disney already has its own attraction anyway.
And worst case scenario,
I don't
the
think they
don't
need to back DeSantis to get people to Disney World.
the don't say
So
gay bill will chase people out of Florida.
maybe residents that don't like it, but people visiting so that they can go to Disney World, no.
Well, if you have fewer residents, you have fewer people to employ. If you can't employ enough people, or you have to lay people off, that looks bad on your quarterly earnings or something. And now
Sure, they'll still have plenty.
I'm
People are
sure
not,
they still have
in
plenty.
general, leaving Florida.
I
People are coming to Florida.
I think people will leave Florida because of the culture war.
I think it'd
I
be a lot fewer people than you think.
I don't know. It depends on how hard they go, which is why I don't like the culture war that he's running anyway. I think he's trying. I've said it before. I think he's trying to get gay and trans people to leave. He's trying to get blue voters to leave Florida. Go to a city, go to a blue state, get out of Florida. That's what he wants, so that he can win repeatedly, easily, without even trying.
That is also not necessarily correct because I
How do you
do
figure?
believe there is, what is it? The rule in Florida, you can only serve one term as governor at a time or two, and then you have to go do something else, and I think you're allowed to come back and try to run again.
Then he'll be
But
senator.
Florida has weird laws. Like
Then he'll be senator. I
I
mean,
know
or he'll
that
be in
Rick
charge of the
Scott was
state
the
or something.
governor, and
Hmm.
then he ran out of time as governor, so he ran for senator instead.
Hmm.
Um, and DeSantis took over as governor.
He's still a party guy. He still wants red people in the seats. He wants Republicans in those seats. He wants a Republican governor. He wants a Republican state house. He wants Republican senators, state senators, judges. He wants all these Republican things. And that's easier if the blue people leave your state.
I would argue it's already relatively easy for now because DeSantis is very much like in the state. Like all these people that are writing these articles and whatnot,
Hmm.
they don't represent the view of the majority of people in Florida.
The people
Um,
writing the CNN politics.
yeah, those people don't represent what people in Florida are thinking. The people in Florida vote for DeSantis because they like him.
Right. I agree.
They like him a
The
lot.
Steve Contorono at CNN probably doesn't live in Florida,
Probably
but he
not.
writes Florida House passes bill extending ban on sexual orientation and gender identity instruction to 8th grade. So we've
Yeah,
it's
we talked about this
passed.
one.
We talked about it
I'm
last week,
I'm
and it's
I'm
not
also still
12th.
fine with it
We've
going to
still
the
gone
eighth
to the
grade.
8th grade. Okay. Um, but where
And
was
actually,
my
this one brings
issue?
up uh, without having to get into the whole discussion again, the
Hmm.
topic of consent.
Hmm.
I rewatched that video. It was a nice thumbnail, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Uh, and Kyle had a comment that said, "I hope you facepalm when you rewatch this." And well, I rewatched it, and I definitely didn't face. And in fact, I did want to say this on the topic of children being capable of. I say
Hmm.
no, they're not.
Okay.
I did think of something. I had a flashback to when I was in uh, elementary and middle school
Hmm.
and high school even.
Hmm.
Um, every time that a teacher was going to play a movie in class
Hmm.
that might have contained some sort of graphic imagery
Hmm.
or uh, particularly strong language,
Hmm.
I had to take a form home to get signed by my parents saying I was allowed to watch this movie.
Okay.
Do you remember that? Did you have that?
No. Um, the teachers just played what movies they thought were acceptable. Um, I think hungover teachers would play movies all the time, but generally it
Well, it was
was
it was for ones that had particularly strong language. So any of the ones that are like the ones that pick slavery that have lots of n bombs in them, um, or
okay.
one that had a particular level of violence in it or nudity or anything.
Oh, we didn't watch anything uh, educational that would have required uh,
Well, like
a permission slip.
in English class, I had to get a permission slip in early high school. It was like freshman or sophomore year. I had to get a permission slip uh, to see Romeo and Juliet
Romeo and
because
Juliet, I
there's
remember that
nipple.
one. I was just
Yeah,
thinking of that one myself. I did watch that Romeo and Juliet in ninth grade, and there is one guy butt, and there is one very quick uh, nip slip
yeah,
where Juliet's jumping out of bed, and you see just a brief flash of nipples. That did
yeah.
not
There's that one,
require that. What year was that? That would have been 96, I want to say.
and
And I did
there was
not
also
have to
one.
fill out a form before that. No.
There was one involving slavery. I think I saw in middle school that had a lot of M's in it, and we had to get that one signed as well.
My school avoided that like the plague. We didn't watch anything even slightly racy. I think we discussed slavery about how bad it is and what it was, and then they moved on really quickly. And
There was also a World War II movie I watched at one point that had to
mhm,
get signed
mhm. I think
for the violence, of course, because there's images of like blood and guts,
mhm.
people dying on the screen.
Blood and guts. Uh, do you know what my school showed us without uh, any sort of permission forms? The um, the entire school got brought into the auditorium to watch one of those um, red asphalt films that scare kids about driving too fast.
Oh Christ! They
And
showed you the exploded people
the
in
exploded people
80 mile an
and
hour.
the 80-mile-an-hour
Wow.
crashes and the blood on the pavement and the heads that have been removed and the limbs that have chopped off because if you go 90 miles an hour and you hit another car, it's like getting this and that and then they show you a dismembered arm. That was what was shown to my entire school with no permission slips written or asked for. But
Yeah, we had to get that shit signed off. I grew up. I mean,
um,
obviously state laws are different, so I grew up in Virginia.
but we also never ever discussed. I had a very odd, shitty school, taught by football coaches who didn't want to teach anything. Um, so it was, and I was in the dumb class because I was lazy and I didn't want to do any work. I was in the dumb class taught by a football coach who really doesn't care, and he's only one chapter ahead of me in the book, in the textbook, and I could see that. I was like, oh, this motherfucker is just like one chapter ahead of me. He just read the chapter last night. Now he's telling us. Because I'd ask him about stuff that was 3 chapters ahead, and he's like, well, let's not get that far ahead. I'm like, okay, you don't even know what you're talking about. I never discussed in high school the Vietnam War um, or Korea. Our entire
What?
history, no, not once. Because those are controversial, so we don't talk about those. We weren't allowed to read Catcher in the Rye or what's that other one? The little Jewish girl, Anne Frank,
And Frank's
right?
Diary.
Not allowed. That was banned in our high school
Wow.
because it's talks about Jewish people. Um, they were very strangely. I mean, I was raised by Texas Methodists, so they're very strangely prudish about certain things, but then unprudish about other things, um, like the violent car death. I came from a car culture, so they beat that into you. Cars will kill you if you don't respect them. Um,
I mean, probably a pretty good lesson to teach.
and that's a fine
Maybe,
lesson to teach properly. Uh,
maybe if you're gonna show
Severed limbs
the
and severed
graphic
heads, and
imagery in those to people, then
I
at least
agree.
have their parents' consent on it.
That
I'd
should
say.
be something that they should have done, but it's very strange.
Well, right. I mean,
And
you
I
you agree
recognize
that
what you're getting at.
parental consent should be given for those kind of things, right?
I am fine for a school being careful and requesting parental consent for those things. Yes, that is acceptable to
Okay. I
me.
just wanted to clear that up. I do find that in much more than major decisions, we already have cases like at my school when I was
Hmm.
growing up,
Hmm.
I had to get permission slips for those kind of things.
Hmm.
I had to get permission slips for field trips,
Hmm.
and all of those things are sort of examples for me of this. The reason for that is because the children themselves are not capable of the consent, and because parents are supposed to have uh, consent in the direction
Hmm.
of their education.
Right, that makes sense. I'm all right with discussing with the parents the plans and coming to an agreement on what ought to be done. I think teachers and students and parents ought to communicate properly.
Yes.
But if you legislate some of those things, it gets weird and confusing.
Uh, well, legislation always does that, yes, but in cases where you have, like, I know that it's only alleged, it's only
Hmm.
from the complaint, but in cases where you have instances of teachers that are hiding things
Hmm.
from parents, I think that you've, at that point, violated the standard for communication
Um,
between teacher or the school and the
I would disagree with the word hiding that you put there.
hiding or well,
They're
hiding in terms of don't tell your parents, but
they're
if not
omitting.
hiding, then failure to communicate,
Omission
omission.
is not
Yeah,
an acceptable thing.
no, no. Well, I mean, no, it's not, of course it's because telling somebody the truth but leaving out important parts of the truth, leaving out important details is it's called lying by omission, right?
Right.
So no, I don't think that you should be omitting important information uh, in your communications with.
If well, again, we would go round and round in that circle again. Um,
Anyways, I just
anyway,
wanted to
you're
be
right.
more clear about my position
I
there
gotcha.
and why I think things that I think.
Okay. Um, from this specific thing that's passed, the bill would force K through 12 public schools to define sex as an immutable biological trait and says it is false to use a pronoun that doesn't correspond to that sex. It would ban teachers from using their preferred pronouns when talking to a student, and it would also says that the school cannot require teachers or students to refer to another person by their preferred pronouns if they differ from that person's sex at birth. This is
Um,
forced speech. Homeboy,
so
what's his name?
it would ban teachers from using their preferred. So Mr. Waldo can't tell a student this is.
Right.
Um, The second part of that sentence says that schools cannot require teachers or students to refer to another person by preferred pronouns, but it doesn't say that they outright won't allow it. So this is a matter of enforcement. This is not the same thing as saying you must call them by their non-preferred pronoun, saying that we can't require you to call them by their preferred pronoun, which is not as bad, I don't think, as the implication of the other direction.
Mm.
Now it does say that it bans the teachers from using their preferred pronouns. So, or when talking to a student.
When talking to a student. So
So what exactly is the? I suppose where I'm looking at is what exactly the end result of this is you end up with a student that has preferred pronouns that differ from their sex at birth,
mhm.
right? And that student says their preferred pronoun. Any teacher that chooses to would still be calling this person by their preferred pronoun anyway, because this doesn't say you can't call them by that. It's you're just not required to call them by that.
Right.
So if you have some asshole teacher that decides that they're not going to call their student, by their preferred pronoun, then
Mhm.
yeah, that teacher won't be punished for it. But I think most teachers probably will call them by their preferred pronouns anyway. And I think that distinction there is very specific in terms of its application.
Okay. Why does this need to be legislated? Why does this have to be in law somewhere?
Um, because it's the issue of the day that doesn't have a whole lot of legislation around it. I
Because it
mean,
doesn't need
the
it.
whole the whole gender identity uh, situation we've got right now is relatively new, and all new things end up being legislated. So why does it have to be legislated? Because we legislate everything in the end. It's going to be there. In the end, there would be some situation that came up that resulted in legislation in one direction or another. So even if you don't think there has been a problem so far, there will probably be one eventually, and you might as well get ahead of it.
That's a great uh, explanation. I don't buy it, but I think literally Ron DeSantis is doing a culture war, and he's creating laws that
Well,
he can
that can't
use to
require. So
then
I'll put it
tell
this
people
way.
that he's saving them from the dangerous, dangerous transits. I'm saving your children from the transits. Look what I did. I created this law to
I'll say
ban
that if the
orientation and sexual gender.
claims in that lawsuit we read last week are true,
Mm-hmm.
then laws like this are very much necessary.
This law wouldn't have done anything for that situation.
It would have, because you're reading the part about the definitions and whatnot. But like I pointed out this week, most of the law is about requiring parent or teachers to communicate with parents. That's most of the law.
And most teachers and parents already communicate well. I'm saying most of this law is unnecessary. And the parts that aren't
In most
unnecessary
cases, it is,
are
but
worrisome.
most of this law is unnecessary, except for the cases where law becomes. I mean, murder is not a common thing.
Great.
Okay, Like, people don't generally go out and kill each other, but
I
we
agree.
do have to have laws that say you are not allowed to commit murder.
That seems highly necessary to me.
Yes. So when we have things that we don't want happening, even if it's only in a very small amount of cases, we do have to legislate that so that we can get those make it so that those cases are not happening. That we are actually capable of enforcing them when it comes to those cases.
Banning
Right? It
teachers
might
from
be.
using their preferred pronouns is not necessary. It's not
I
important.
agree. I
It's
agree with that one specific
okay.
part is not
So it's
necessary.
so it's
Yes.
limiting what they can say, which I don't like either. Um, when I am suggesting that the government create laws, it's to increase freedom. If the government makes a law against murder, as you mentioned, that increases my freedom because now I don't have to, I worry less, still possible, I worry less about being murdered. I don't have to be as afraid of someone killing me because the state will seek proper restitution and we take it seriously. So that increases my freedom. This doesn't increase freedom. This bans what teachers are allowed to say. How does that increase freedom?
Well, it restricts the freedom of the teachers. It increases the freedom of parents
How?
to
You
direct
said
their
that last
child's
week and it
education.
still doesn't comprehend. I still don't comprehend it. Also, not to derail you or anything, but you're clipping on the end of all your words.
Oh, shoot.
Not sure
Because
if.
I moved away from my mic a little bit.
Okay,
How's
sorry.
that?
Much better. Sorry. Okay,
I
go
leaned
ahead.
back a little bit.
How dare you? Okay. So how does this restriction on what the teachers are and aren't allowed to say increase freedom?
Because the freedom of the parents to direct their child's education is necessarily inversely proportional to the freedom of teachers to do and say what they want. That's why.
I can't even comprehend how that happens. The parents already have the freedom to teach their children.
They don't, though.
They do.
I mean, no,
The
they
teachers
don't.
aren't going into your house taking books out.
If except that we mandate that your child goes to school, right?
Right.
Whether that's homeschool um or public school or private school.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the money to send them to private school, you're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you need both parents working to make ends meet, you
Mm-hmm.
certainly can't homeschool them.
Mm-hmm.
So to suggest that, oh, we should just, if you don't like the way that the public education system is teaching your kids, you should just teach them yourself. I mean, that is, I hate to be the one to bring this up. That is a unbelievably privileged perspective.
Mm-hmm. Is that not the Republican way? If you don't like Ron DeSantis' laws, you can move, is what I hear from Republicans. If you don't like the way we run things in Texas, you can leave. If you don't like the way that Kansas operates its abortion laws, you can go somewhere else. You can go move. You can leave. That is a privileged statement. Not everybody can leave. Not everybody has money for that. It is. I mean, Republicans are
I
hypocritical
would
in this
argue it's
situation
it's
slightly.
easier to leave than it is to augment your social status enough to the point where you're capable now of private or homeschooling your child.
If you
Moving is actually really easy.
no, it's shockingly expensive.
You get you get a couple of you get a
out
couple
of this, out of the state,
of jobs somewhere else.
getting a job somewhere else, not easy. Okay, great. You've
Oh, it's absolutely easy right now. But again, I mean, we mandate that you go to public school.
we mandate
If
that
you
you
don't,
get an
if you're not
education. You have to
right,
give
we
your children
mandate
an
that.
education because if you
Your
don't,
options are Public,
You're harming
private,
your child.
homeschool.
I'm on board for this. I'm super on board for it so far. Not educating a child is a roundabout form of abuse.
If I don't have the means to private or to send my child to private school or
Mm-hmm.
to homeschool my child,
Mm-hmm. You have to take the public
I have
option.
to send them to public school.
Great.
So I'm effectively mandated to send them to public school.
Well, you could make more money. Isn't that the Republican way? You could make more money. You could work harder. You could pull yourself up by your bootstraps and start paying for that public education or that private school.
That doesn't happen overnight.
I know it doesn't happen overnight. I'm
The
being
public
I'm
school
being a
in the
dick.
meantime is teaching my children things I don't want them to teach.
Then tell them you have the freedom to tell them that. You have the freedom to tell your children, hey, this thing that they're talking about at school, we don't believe it, we don't accept it. You have the freedom to do that. You have the freedom to teach your children that Narnia is real and that the school teachers are wrong. The school teacher teaching things, facts and logic, does not take away from the freedom of the parents. This inverse thing that you mentioned earlier doesn't make any sense to me. If a teacher says X is real and then the parents say X is not real, you haven't taken freedom away from the parents. You have possibly confused the child. You have possibly given them information. But if you're setting your policies, your education policies, based on facts, reality, and correctness, then you'll never be wrong.
Do you think that in order for a parent to object to a certain thing that the child is being taught or to contradict what the child is being taught, they would have to know what the child's being taught first?
They would have to know. Yes, they would have to know. If
Yes.
they were going to
So
complain about it, they would have to know it. Yes.
so you have to have communication there, right?
Right. You'd have to have the parents know what is being taught. Yes.
Okay. You have to have the communication, and in cases where the communication has been broken down, where we have omissions
Mm-hmm.
in the communication,
Mm-hmm.
that necessarily prevents the parents from objecting to something that they don't know even is happening.
Yes.
So we should not have omissions in communication.
We should have the child decide what gets passed to their parents.
That should be an opt out and not an
I
opt
know.
in.
And we're here again.
Okay.
uh,
Do you understand now more clearly where I'm going with
I
this, right?
hear
Like,
you. I just don't agree.
okay,
Uh,
that's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure
I,
my point was very,
I
very clear
see
here.
that you are making a point, and I do not. Um, I just don't agree with it. The children should make that decision. If kid says don't tell my parents, then you don't. If the kid says nothing, you say nothing. Um, because the parent. And why did I come to that conclusion?
Well, yes, Kyle, that's exactly what I was trying to say, though. If you have to know what the lesson was or what was being taught to your child in order to correct it in the first place.
And the
If you don't
point.
know that your child was taught something or that a teacher spoke to your child about something,
Okay.
then you don't have any opportunity to correct it because you don't know that it happened.
If you and I'm going to what's it called? Steelman your argument here. Um, if a child is invited to a lunchtime meeting of the bi, trans, gay alliance club, and they go to it, their parents don't know. And it's entirely possible that a child, 12, 13 years old, gets invited to the LGBTQ club at lunch, goes there, speaks with the teacher, hears about LGBTQ issues, goes home, never tells their parents. The parents don't know, and then those parents can't teach a different thing to their children. and that is your
Right.
complaint. And
Uh-huh.
I think that's fine. I
Okay.
see your point, and I see what you're complaining about, and I see what
Thank
you're
you.
discussing, and I see what you're going for, and I see how you're getting there. It's just that the I want that uh, I want the action to be chosen by the children. If teachers are pressuring children to go to these meetings, they're wrong. If teachers are pushing children to do certain things, they're wrong. If the teachers are pushing the children to tell their parents, I still think they might be wrong. Um, you should let the children lead when it comes to that situation. And if the children say, I don't want to tell my parents because I think they will hit me, then I would never tell the parents.
On that one specifically, I agree. And
I know.
the only thing you and I disagree on is when the child doesn't say whether you should tell their parents or not.
Okay.
I think the answer is yes, you tell the parent.
Okay.
And you think the answer is no.
Yeah. And that's the only.
I don't think we're ever gonna
I don't think we're going to
we're
change each
ever
other.
gonna move
Yeah.
past that one.
I agree.
So
I just got a email on my phone right now from my kid's school. You know, I get these things every day.
Mhm.
What is this one about? Uh, let's see. Oh, thanks for coming to the meetings because I had a meeting with his teacher last week.
ah, all
Um,
right. Do we have anything else on the docket today?
mm, no, this isn't as forced speech as I thought it was. When I read this at first, I thought this was forced speech. It's still
The only one that I would say
slightly,
is forced
slightly.
speech is when you ban teachers from using their preferred pronouns. I don't
Right.
like that one. I'll
It's a
agree with you on that.
it's a little bit forced speech. Yeah.
It's pretty much the only thing that uh, I think is a really huge issue, though.
But cannot require is not as dire as I thought it was.
Right.
Uh,
Not
uh,
must.
right.
Must call by
Right.
non-preferred pronouns.
Right.
Like,
Must call them by the one that they should. Yeah. So that would be forced speech, and I don't like that. Old boy Jordan Peterson made his bones, got famous by screaming about how
oh
he
yeah,
wasn't
about
going to
forced
let
speech on pronouns.
the
Yeah,
government
exactly.
force him to use pronouns. Um,
Yep. That
okay.
was his big start.
Uh, 1 in 4 college applicants avoid entire states for political reasons.
Makes sense to me. I probably would avoid certain colleges based on what states they're into.
Okay, so yeah, is that a thing that we can do both ways?
Yes.
Um,
If you are a very liberal person, you don't go to college in Kentucky.
if you're a very liberal
Just
person,
like
don't go to
I'm
college in
a
Kentucky. Okay,
conservative person, I will not go to college. I will not apply to UC Berkeley.
you're not going to go to those Northern California colleges that just teach you how to grow weed. No.
No. No,
Okay.
I think I'm good. Hi Nick. Um, so the voice chat is uh just the two of us. If you'd like to be a guest star, then you can join our Discord. May bring you in for a conversation.
Yeah, that would be fine with me. Um,
Do we have the Discord link posted in the videos yet?
it's posted in the video. Yeah, should be. If not, I can probably find it. And then we might talk about the Tennessee shooting. Let's do.
Is the Discord link in the live stream description?
I think so. Give me one moment to double check it. We're going to open up YouTube and then click on my own stream, but it's muted, so that's okay. And yeah, our Discord link is right down there.
Nice. Yeah, join the Discord, Nick, and uh, you got a topic you want to talk to one of us about, then you're welcome to come on. If you want to be a part of the discussion for a particular topic with both of us, then we'll do like we did last week. And yeah, it'll be a
The
good time.
the general voice chat is, I think, open to everybody.
General is open to everyone. We're still working on the Discord. It's not
It's
built out
very
yet.
bare bones.
We have the bare bones so far, but as the community grows, I'm sure that I am right. Waldo is left.
Generally, yes. That's why I think it would be fun to talk to you. That's why I like talking to Modular, is because he calms me down a little bit. I was very excited about that one being uh, forced speech. I was super on top of it. But generally, yes, I am a leftist. Um, I don't want to be a liberal, but I have to agree with him sometimes. And yeah, if you hop in, Nick, if you hop into our Kyle's here too, yeah. If you hop into our Discord and then just jump in the general voice channel, Modular can pop you in and out as necessary.
All
But
right. Well, I think we're about at the end for today, though.
um, did you want to talk about the Nashville
Oh,
shooting?
we got one more thing. Sure.
We'll talk about this for a few minutes. If Nick jumps in, we'll drag him in. If not, not. Um, Covenant school shooter was under care for emotional disorder and hid guns at home. Um, this has been all, and I we talked about it last week, right? You were I don't think that the transness has anything to do with this issue at the moment.
Well, the person was mentally ill,
Right, I
right?
agree. Um, but
I think that mental illness has a pretty substantial correlation with shooting people,
I
or at least shooting
agree
up schools.
that mental illness has a correlation to school shootings, and that guns have a stronger correlation with school shootings. Can't shoot people with no guns. And I'm not suggesting that we all have to turn in guns and we go gun grabbing and the uh, we round them all up and shoot everybody who doesn't turn theirs in. That's not what I'm suggesting.
And the guns are the tool that's being used for it. That what this is highlighting is a problem in society that we're having, where people are overwhelmingly disaffected. We have an abundance of mental illness nowadays, it seems like. Um,
I'd suggest we have more guns than we have mental illness.
you only need one if you're going to be mentally ill and shoot people up.
I know.
I would, what I would say is, all I want to do is point to the 1960s
Hmm.
when you could order a gun by mail. You could mail order a gun, no background check, nothing. We didn't have mass shootings back then. We didn't have school shooting.
Hmm.
There's something very wrong with our society right now that's resulting in these shootings. And it is not the availability of guns, because guns are less available now than they were when you could mail order them.
Okay. Um, Probably. Is it more difficult to get a gun today? Probably. Do we have more of the mental illness? Maybe. But I don't know why we can't have the mental checks be a part of buying the gun. That's all I've ever. That is my actual solution. You have to pass certain mental checks through a trained professional, doctor, psychiatrist, before you're allowed to legally own the guns. This 28-year-old, Audrey, I think was the name, um, wouldn't have passed. Audrey Hale, I don't think would have passed that, and then could not have properly bought those guns. The parents felt Hale should not own weapons. If they feel that way, a proper medical professional will also probably feel that way and not give her the sign and the check that allows her to buy guns from the store.
Um, maybe. I don't know. I think I'm a little burnt out at the moment. We'll have
Okay.
to have the guns conversation some other time. But I think this is about the end for me.
Okay. All right. Cool. Um, that is fine. I just didn't want the idea to be that trans people are to blame for, or the transness even was a part of this situation.
Oh, it was. Yeah, the person was mentally
Mm-hmm.
ill is my takeaway.
Okay.
Real quick, uh, take me offline.
I can do that. I'm going to, off the stream or out of a thing entirely.
Yeah, like put it on our starting screen again.
Okay. Say something. I can hear you, but the stream can't. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I think you're right. Okay, we have our very first super fun guests in chat. It's so fun. Uh, and here we
And I
go.
am out, so I see you guys
All right. Always a
pretty
pleasure talking
soon.
to you.
You as well.
If you got anything, as usual, hit me up, and I'll talk to you next week.
Yep. See you on Saturday.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, Mr. Joel. I just unmuted you. Hello, Mr. Joel. You said, do I hate car-centric suburbs?
Yes.
Um, maybe. I don't love car culture. It was the way I grew up, but I think we could do better. But hate them specifically? No, I don't think so. I think we could do better. I think we should try to do better.
I have to say something real quick. 1 minute, sorry. I hate.
Oh, so close, but I muted you just before you said anything interesting. That sucks, doesn't it? I'm a streamer now. Welcome to being a streamer. All right. So, modular's done for the day. Our chat has been silly. But that's okay. Um, that's what happens when you're a streamer. Welcome to the party. No, it was not strange. I saw it coming a mile away. That's what Modular and I were talking about when we were muted. Didn't even get what they wanted.
Fucking
How
called it.
lame. I know, how lame. What a loser.
I knew it was coming.
I know.
That's why we went offline, boys, because that was what was gonna happen. And Mr. Joel is now banned.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
All right. Um,
DJ Nuck.
Kyle suggests that we watch the D&D movie. I might in the next couple of weeks. I have to take my boy to watch the Mario movie next week, though. But I do want to watch the D&D movie.
Yeah, I'll probably see the D&D movie too. I had a friend that went and saw it last night, so
Mhm.
I'll ask him how it was, and
Okay.
if he recommends it, I'll go see it.
Okay. Yeah, I'll report back to you on the Mario movie since that's the one I'm gonna have to go watch that one first. Kyle's got a ticket for Mario on Wednesday. Super fun.
Nice. Yeah.
And I think that's it for today's stream. We're a day late, but that's okay. We
Yep.
had to talk about Trump, so we jumped online, and I'll talk to you next week.
Sounds good.
All right, Kyle, Shin, thanks as always for coming in, keeping us busy with chat, and I'm excited that now I'm a streamer now. Just got my first rando trying to
Yep.
mess
Trying to
with me.
stream men bombs.
I
Told you that
know.
was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And it was WJ Nuck that was the other guy that
Yeah.
him and Joel. I'm gonna
Yeah.
ban that guy too.
Oh, good. Cool. We're streamers now. uh, everybody have a good day. Bye.